Thanks very much for staying on with us here on WION World is One. I'm Modi Gambhir, taking you straight across to Afghanistan, where the scenes that have been unfolding over the last few minutes in Kabul, indicating how the political divide within Kabul has only deepened in the midst of the peace negotiations. Taking you straight now to those visuals that we have been getting to you of those parallel inaugurations taking place of Afghanistan's re-elected President Ashraf Ghani and Afghanistan's Chief Executive Abdullah Abdullah. Now, there are several messages that come in through these ceremonies that are taking place of these two rival leaders. The first one, of course, being how the United States intervention as far as of the presidential elections. These elections were held in September last year. 5 months later, after the results were declared, Abdullah Abdullah had contested the declaration of Ashraf Ghani as the winner. And that was just the beginning of what we have been witnessing as the deepening political divide in Afghanistan, coming right in the middle of the peace process. Afghanistan, of course, has witnessed this political friction for years now within these two camps. And Abdullah Abdullah has, after contesting the election results, also indicated earlier that he will be holding a rival inauguration ceremony, and that's exactly what we are witnessing now on our screens. Abdullah Abdullah, the chief executive, also holding his own inauguration ceremony. In fact, as per reports, the two leaders had also sent in invitations to each other to attend their respective ceremonies. But a pertinent point here being that Zarme Khalilzad, the U.S. envoy, is attending Ashraf Ghani's swearing-in ceremony, and that is in itself a strong indication of the Trump administration's support for Ashraf Ghani, and that the Trump administration is backing Ashraf Ghani. The kind of support that the two leaders enjoy, those have been points that we have been discussing with our panel of experts who have been getting us more perspectives on that developing story. These ceremonies, very interestingly, taking place just about 300 meters apart. The venues of these two ceremonies just 300 meters apart. Security beefed up over the last few hours throughout this entire heavily fortified area. Ashraf Ghani sworn in as Afghanistan's president, but at the same time, a rival inauguration ceremony that has been organized by Afghanistan's chief executive, Abdullah Abdullah. Let's get in further details now from Strategic Affairs analyst Brahma Chalani. Professor Chalani, thanks very much for speaking with us. First, your initial assessment of what we are witnessing on our screens. Many would say this comes along anticipated lines, given the kind of friction that's only been deepening within Kabul and between these two camps.
It was a disputed election and also a disputed election outcome. And this divide between two leading politicians is actually an ethnic divide in Afghanistan, a divide between Pashtuns and non-Pashtuns. So this has an important bearing on stability, on governance in Afghanistan. And it comes at a critical time when the Americans have already clinched a deal with the Taliban, which is backed by Pakistan and has safe havens in Pakistan. So this deal represents a triumph of the Pakistani deep state. It has come at a time when the Afghan government has split and split very badly. So in a way, the Americans are happy because they can proceed with their deal with the Taliban, while the Afghan mainstream politicians fight among themselves.
Right, we're losing that audio there, Professor Chalani. We'll just try and reconnect that line. Of how these are developments that have a direct bearing on the Afghanistan peace process. Firstly, the very fact that the Afghanistan regime appears to be extremely divided, with parallel inauguration ceremonies taking place of these two rival leaders. will, of course, mean that the Taliban, in sharp contrast, which has tried to put up a united front, will get more ammunition to try and denounce the Afghanistan regime. Remember, the Taliban had earlier outrightly, time and again, called Afghanistan's political establishment a puppet regime, and had also refused to hold direct negotiations with the Afghanistan authorities. Now, the very fact that these two camps are now appearing on the peace negotiations. Professor Chalani is back with us. Go ahead, Professor, with the point that you were making earlier.
This political divide in Kabul between Ashraf Ghani and Dr. Abdullah Abdullah has important implications not just for political stability in Afghanistan, but also for ethnic harmony in Afghanistan. These two individuals represent very different ethnic interests. Traditionally, the Pashtuns in Afghanistan have been pitted against the non-Pashtuns. Dr. Abdullah Abdullah represents the non-Pashtun constituency in Afghanistan. It's very important for Afghanistan to stay united. Afghanistan is a multicultural, multi-ethnic country like India, and its future largely on the basis of ethnicity and nationality, then this really will augur not well for the future of the government in Afghanistan. Dr. Ashraf Ghani cannot think of governing without winning the cooperation of Tajiks and other ethnic minorities. He should be trying to win over Dr. Abdullah Abdullah as he did in his first term. Even the first election that Ashraf Ghani won was disputed, but he created a special position of chief executive to accommodate Dr. Abdullah Abdullah, who's an eye doctor by training, and that's how a unity government was formed. Similarly today, there is need for Ashraf Ghani to reach out to Dr. Abdullah Abdullah and the non-Pashtun leaders and seek to build a coalition of unity.
And these developments coming at a time when intra-Afghan talks, Professor, are due to take place tomorrow, and also in the backdrop of what we have been saying have been attempts by the American side to try and resolve the political crisis.
Exactly. As you know, the Americans had committed to an Afghan-owned and Afghan-led peace process, but they went ahead and negotiated and signed a deal with the Pakistan-backed Taliban without involving the Afghan government. And tomorrow is the deadline for two important developments. First, for the start of intra-Afghan dialogue, that is the dialogue between the Afghan government and the Taliban. And second is the deadline for the release of up to 5,000 Taliban terrorists from jails in Afghanistan. Now, if these terrorists are released, it will have implications for India's security. Some of them actually might seek to enter India's J&K. And there is opposition within the Afghan government over the American commitment to release up to 5,000.
Dr. Ashraf Ghani and Dr. Abdullah. But on the other hand, the matter is that Dr. Ashraf Ghani claims that he is going to have the office and make Afghanistan better. On the same side, Dr. Abdullah is saying that he is going to start his office by introducing cabinet ministers. But Dr. Ashraf Ghani has said that his first action after swearing in as the Afghan president would be abolishing the office of the CEO. And as far as the guests go, 4,000 people are present here at the venue, and as am I talking to you right now at this moment, Afghan President Dr. Ashraf Ghani is addressing a crowd of 4,000 people. That includes foreign diplomats, members of the international community, ambassador of European Union, NATO's ambassador, U.S. Special Representative to Afghanistan, Michael Izzat, who was in talks until late last night, to try to prevent two parallel inauguration ceremonies. But at the end, he showed up at Dr. Ashraf Ghani's inauguration ceremony, which is a sign of United States endorsement of Dr. Ashraf Ghani and not of Dr. Abdullah. We have the similar and equal crowd at the Safedar Palace, which houses the office of the Chief Executive, doing pretty much the same that is going on over here. Speeches being sworn in and other procedures that are there in the Afghan law for an incoming and new president. Now Dr. Abdullah is also claiming he is the president, and the election commission result is by the Afghan constitution what values and is credible for an individual to be announced as the Afghan president to remain either in the seat or would tell the elections to do etc. But the election commission announced Dr. Ashraf Ghani as the lead winner of the election, and Dr. Abdullah contested and opposed that announcement, saying that his votes were taken out in order to make Dr. Ashraf Ghani win the elections. And he also accused him and several other officials on Dr. Abdullah's side, accused the election commission of fraud and intentionally destroying their ballots and votes to enable systematically for Dr. Ashraf Ghani to win the elections. Back to you.
Taking a cue from what you were mentioning in between there earlier, Mustafa, if you can confirm for us whether there will be some attendees who will be actually making their way from the Abdullah inauguration ceremony to the Ashraf Ghani inauguration.
The office of the Chief Executive and the Presidential Palace, they're both located. There are missiles being launched on the lodge as we are speaking. If you can hear me, there are rockets being fired. At least 5 rockets have landed inside the perimeter of the Presidential Palace of Afghanistan as Ashraf Ghani was talking. And he is back on the stage telling the people to stay on his position and listen to him as he continued. And he did not stop his conversation and his speech with the people. We have 5 missiles landed far away, but very strong missiles inside somewhere at the Presidential Palace. And we don't know where the missiles hit, but it seems that the inauguration ceremony is back on the record. And Dr. Ashraf Ghani continues his speech and encourages people to sit down and not to worry. And he continues his speech. Back to you.
All right, just to piece together what Mustafa Kazemi, our Afghanistan correspondent, just shared with us, he has told us that, right, let's get our viewers a better sense through those images. Those visuals coming to you from the Kabul Presidential Palace of Ashraf Ghani at the podium in the midst of this inauguration ceremony, as our correspondent Mustafa Kazemi just shared with us. During the proceedings of the inauguration ceremony, as Mustafa shared with us, 5 rockets landed inside the Presidential Palace while Ashraf Ghani was delivering that address in the midst of his swearing in. Mustafa has shared with us that as many as 5 rockets landed while he was sharing those inputs with us. He also confirmed that Ashraf Ghani continued with his speech after the initial ruckus had been taken care of. But 5 rockets have landed inside the presidential palace in the midst of Afghanistan's re-elected President Ashraf Ghani's swearing-in ceremony that's unfolding in Kabul. These are live images that we are now getting to you from Kabul. Firing reported at Ashraf Ghani's swearing-in ceremony as we wait for further details to emerge on that front. Professor Chalani, a quick update from you, a quick reaction on what we've witnessed unfold over the last few minutes of firing reported in the midst of Ashraf Ghani's swearing-in ceremony.
As if the fact that there are 2 dueling presidents in Kabul today was not bad enough, we are now witnessing explosions, rocket explosions and firing in the midst of the presidential inauguration of Ashraf Ghani. And this really underscores the fact that the Taliban not going to live up to their part of the bargain. The Americans have a deal with the Taliban under which the Americans have agreed to halt all drone attacks in Kabul, in which nearly 3,000 people were killed at a rally at which Dr. Abdullah Abdullah was present, that the Taliban is not honoring the terms of the deal with the US. In fact, all they're interested in is to see the Americans leave Afghanistan so that the Taliban can take the minutes of Ashraf Ghani's inauguration are a reminder that the Taliban's power, once the Americans leave, they will try to impose the Sharia and try to take Afghanistan back to the medieval ages.
Right, stay with me, please, Professor Chalani. Mustafa Kazemi, our Afghanistan correspondent, is back with us over the phone line. Mustafa, what more details can you share with us of that firing that was reported at that swearing-in ceremony?
Hi, yes, we just had 5 missiles, rockets launched somewhere near the presidential palace here. We don't yet know where the missiles landed, but it disturbed the event, and all the people run for cover and shelter. But after the missiles and the rocket shots were over, the President-elect Ashraf Ghani continued his speech and encouraged everybody, all of the 4,000 present guests, to not worry and not be afraid, and continued his speech while encouraging